Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, buddy, and welcome to your end of the week edition of the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. Another win. I guess I could have said like DJ Khaled. Another one. Pelicans get the win last night against Sacramento, go 5-0 against the Kings this season. This is what it sounded like on the Pelicans Radio Network.
Just across the timeline, left-hand dribble, get it to Trey again for a heat check. Yes, sir, he hit it from Stockton.
Cook him, Kenneth. He is wide open.
Wide open. And dare I say, the Boo Birds are out in the first quarter here in Sacramento. Timeout on the floor. Fox just loses it.
Oh, here we go.
Steal Z. Showtime, baby. Throw it down with the right hand.
Hammer time.
Jones, front court, chest it to McCollum. Left angle three. Yes.
Oh, Christian James. A 6-0 run by the Pels to counter the 8-0 run by the Kings. And we're going to need some Imodium in here if we keep on with all these runs.
Is anybody going to have any timeouts left by the time this game is over? Because Mike Brown just took another one. Zion pulls up from the free throw line.
Z Mitty. We saw him working on this shot today in shoot around.
I mean, right at the nail. Easily taken away by Fox, who's going to run the break. Oh, and blocked from behind by Williamson. Taken by Murphy. Throws it up the floor to Jose. Stop, pop, right corner, three. What a sequence that was.
What in the world was that? Jose had no business taking that shot in front of the Pels bench off the fast break. He's the only guy down the court.
But it started with the Williamson block.
Oh, he traveled.
Oh, and Zion just stole it.
Yeah.
To Jose. Left of the top three. Buried it. Jose
off these turnovers. And now he's 3 of 4 from 3.
And then Dyson just stripped Fox. Up the floor, Alvarado. Alley-oop Trey. Throw it down, Trey Murphy.
Rumble, young man. Rumble.
And again, it starts on the defensive end. Defense leads to offense. Pels now have 20 points off turnovers. Jose, get it to McCollum off the curl. Another three!
Heater!
That's an inferno.
That's 31, and that is 4 30-point games in his last 5. And the one he didn't have 30, he had 29.
Zeller goes back door!
Yes, sir.
Bounce feed, Jose!
They did not expect Cody Zeller to fly in like that, and Jose Alvarado finds his teammate running baseline.
Flush it down, mass man. And Mike Brown just took his final timeout with 6:48 left in the ball game, and they are starting to trickle towards the exits here at Golden One Center. It's a 12-2 run. Everybody up. 129, 121, 140 to go. Herb to Trey, left angle three. Dagger time!
That will quiet him down.
Our 22nd made three of the night. Waste a little clock now. Pels up 132, 123. Zion finger roll. Sabonis tried to flop. No matter. Williamson with 31.
And let's get on the bus.
No foul. Fox, left corner. Mitchell saved it. Pels up 134, 123. Mitchell baseline jumper. That's short. Rebound McCollum. Turn the lights out.
Yeah, twos doesn't do him any good.
McCollum, they're trying to foul him. They won't call it.
Well, if they're going to foul somebody, they ought to foul Z.
And now they are really headed for the exits here. And now they foul Williamson with 46.4 seconds to go. And they are racing into the streets here in Sacramento. And the Pelicans are going to do it.
And Zion's got 23 of his 31 in the second half.
135 to 123 to final. Head coach Willie Green on the win.
Just thanking God. It's such a tremendous blessing to have this opportunity and an opportunity to coach this team. That group of guys in the locker room, they're resilient. They stick together. They go out each and every night and give it everything they have. And to your point, it's hard to beat a team 5 times in a season. Just a gutsy effort on our part.
Zion Williamson with 31 points in the game in 31 minutes.
Goes back to taking it game by game. Every game is important, and at the end of the day, we got to play the cards dealt to us.
C.J. McCollum also had 31. Trey Murphy, 6 threes to go with 27. Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com. You were with us at the studio yesterday, watching with us. Look, that first, do you go back to the start? Do you go to the start as to why this team played so well?
I do. I mean, partly because they led wire to wire. Sacramento was able to turn a 20-plus point deficit down to get that all the way down to 2, I think, in the second half. But, I mean, if you think about it, really, the Pelicans never were behind, never trailed in that game. So, yeah, I mean, the first few minutes were huge, especially to me in the context of the fact that New Orleans had already beaten them 4 straight times. And to me, it was a pretty emphatic statement in the first few minutes of the game that, you know, the Kings, you might have designs on answering and finally breaking through in this season series for your first win, but instead, it just seemed like the Pelicans established that they were the better team right off the bat, and then they carried that through for most of the rest of the game, becoming the first team in at least 20 years to beat an opponent 5 times in the same season.
So Zion had to say on getting off to a good start in that game.
Every game is important for us. So, you know, we want to have a complete game from start to finish. So, you know, we start the game off on fire. We were getting a lot of open looks. And, you know, they did cut the lead a few times, but, you know, we were able to maintain and execute.
You know, Jim, the other thing that was interesting as well, or I guess pretty special, it was win number 27 on the road this season for the franchise. That ties the NBA right now with the most wins on the road, but it does set a franchise record for most wins on the road in a single season. That is one heck of an accomplishment.
It really is. That's very impressive. I mean, I was here in 2007 and 08 when they set the previous franchise record for road wins, and we both know how good that team was. I mean, they had a lot of veteran guys. They had guys, I mean, Chris Paul was second in the MVP balloting last year, so to be able to surpass that with more wins on the road this year, you got to give them credit. It's a great sign for, you know, the postseason as far as their ability to win in hostile environments, but I think even more, maybe big picture, just going forward, I mean, they've established how good they can be on the road, and, I mean, that's something maybe in the future that will make them even more of a contender down the road.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here is what head coach Willie Green has to say about his team's ability to be able to go away from the Smoothie King Center and pick up W's.
It's extremely difficult to win any game in the NBA, let alone go in someone else's building and carve out a win. I don't necessarily have the answers, I'm going to be honest with you, of how we're doing it, but we are. And we're going to take those positives and keep trying to build on them. But it's good to know that we can go on the road and be together and win games at a high level.
You know, JD, in those highlights, had a fantastic comment about what happens in a game of runs and eating some medicine for that and things of that nature. It was fun, though. But when you listen to that game and you watch that game, you could see why Sacramento is still one of those good teams. And I think it just kind of shows the growth, though, from the Pelicans over the season. Don't you think, Jim, like not only clutch moments, withstanding runs, they got it within single digits. They got it within a couple of possessions. And what I mean by the maturity, they went to work with Zion, or the guys knocked down big shots, 3-pointers. Mm-hmm. Trey came through. Jose came through. What about Cody Zeller coming through last night?
Yeah, he had some big minutes and some big moments in the second half, so that was great. But I think, to your point, it does seem like they've made progress and they're gradually getting better at if a team makes a run at them in the fourth quarter, they know exactly what to go to that's going to be effective. It seemed like earlier in the season in clutch time, they were definitely tentative in a lot of situations, and I mean, even sometimes they were kind of almost trying to dribble the clock out and we all know if you're only up by, say, 4 or 6 points with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game, you got to keep attacking. You can't count on the clock to just run out. There's just too much time, and it's only a 24-second shot clock, so there's so many possessions. So I thought against Sacramento last night, though, that Zion was determined in the fourth quarter to say, you're not going to be able to stop me. You're not going to be able to keep me from getting to the rim. and he was able to just drive constantly against Sacramento, get into the paint against them. You know, you mentioned too, we know the Kings are a very good team, and I think that's partly why when the Pelicans were up 20 plus, I knew that Sacramento was going to make a run. But the problem last night, and I think the problem in all 5 games this year between these two teams for the Kings is just they can't get enough defensive stops. I mean, you can make a run, but at a certain point, you got to be able to keep the other team from scoring, or you're in there. No matter how good of an offensive team you are, you're gonna hit some droughts. So if you can't stop the other team, you get that deficit down to 2 or 4, but then all of a sudden it's back up to 10 or 12. And with the way that New Orleans was shooting threes, especially C.J. McCollum and Trey Murphy, they just were. I mean, that's how you end up with over 130 points. They just looked like such an explosive offense last night.
We're getting closer to being able to narrow down where the Pels will be next week. We do know at the very minimum they will be in a play-in game. After the win yesterday, they will be either 6th or 7th. They cannot be any lower than that. Now, it doesn't mean who they're going to play if they're 7th, because I literally got a text this morning at 6:15. I wasn't even up. My alarm's 6:30. I'm like, Now, we'll refuse to say his name, but he knows what he did. Literally, the text was, can the Lakers still... People are so frightened to face the Lakers in a play-in game. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Can you look in your crystal ball or just pull up the standings? Can the Pelicans still play the Lakers in a play-in game next week? I know we play them Sunday. Can they play them in the play-in?
They can. If the Pelicans drop to 7 and the Lakers move up to 8, it is possible that you could face them in a play-in game. I like the fact, though, that in terms of the standings, we've talked about this a lot throughout this season, especially the last month or two. It is nice to finally be able to say Kings, Warriors, Lakers, don't have to worry about them. They can't catch the Pelicans.
They can't, because they're 3 games behind the Pels with 2 to play.
Right. So, but I mean, to your question, and the person who aggravatingly texted you at 6 a.m. I hope that wasn't someone. 6:50. I hope that, or 6:50. I hope that wasn't someone on 4:50 Pacific time that texted you.
No,
but okay.
No, they know better than do that because they were still sleeping. No, but look, there's that very real sense of understanding what this all means, right? And look, and I guess the main reason is because the way it sets up, as they go into action this morning, the Pelicans are 6, 1 game in front of Phoenix, who's 7. Now, both of those teams, or at least 2 or 3, in the Pelicans' case, games ahead of the Kings, Warriors, Lakers, which is why the Pels cannot get lower than 7.
Right.
The problem is 8, 9, and 10, Jim, they all have the same record, 45 and 35. All 3 teams have the same record. So, to your point, what you made on the comment on the show last night, the Lakers play the Grizzlies tonight. That
on paper, that's a pretty winnable game for them, right?
So Sunday absolutely means something for them because 8 gives you that mulligan, Jim. It's that simple. These 3 teams absolutely want 8th because if they win, they're 7th. If they lose, they play the winner of 9-10. They get another chance, and they will be playing there.
Right.
So that's the key.
The problem for the Lakers with 2 games left is that they went 0-4 against Sacramento, 1-3 against Golden State. So they do not have any good tie-breaking advantage there at all. I mean, the reason that the standings are ordered the way they are with Sacramento, Golden State, Lakers all 45 and 35 is because of the combined records against each other. And the fact the Kings went 4-0 against the Lakers is, I think they went 2-2 against Golden State. So you add that together, they're 6-2. Lakers are only 1-7 against those other 2 teams. So really, to me, the pathway. The most likely pathway to the Lakers being able to move up out of 10th is that Sacramento loses to Phoenix tonight, Golden State loses to the Pelicans tonight. The Lakers go into Sunday saying, we just need to win. And then they'd be 8th. But, I mean, if they go into Sunday in that way, the Pelicans can be a big-time spoiler. But, I mean, other than that, it's going to be tough because both Sacramento and Golden State on Sunday play teams that are out of the race. So they both have very winnable games. So really, if either Sacramento or Golden State wins tonight, it's going to be very tough for the Lakers to get out of the 9-10 playing game no matter what. So we'll see how that unfolds. I don't want to help the Lakers, though. You know, I don't want to be like. Yeah. I mean, the Pelicans need to win. Obviously, that's way more important than anything else. But
here's the beauty: Sacramento has got a lot on the line tonight. Now it is a back-to-back for them. They're playing Phoenix. at home. It's time to light the beam for them, right? I mean, look, they played well last night, and De'Aaron Fox, you saw what he's capable of, but that would be the best case scenario. Somehow the Pels can pull out a win tonight, and Sacramento get a win.
And then you're in the playoffs.
You're 6. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. Now, that said, it's not simple in that Golden State's been playing really well. In the last 10 games, they're 9-1. Jim, they are a team that is playing much better basketball, and they also still have a shot at 8. They want to get out of that win or go home play-in. So everybody tonight has a lot on the line.
It is funny just to see the way this has all come down to the end, where you're talking about the 6th place team plays the 9th place team, New Orleans versus Golden State, and the 7th place team plays the 8th place team with Phoenix versus Sacramento. So it's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but all these games are happening at the same time. The Lakers do play at 7, so that's a little earlier. We'll have a pretty good indication of whether they're going to win or lose by the time the Pelicans game tips off tonight. But yeah, this is going to be fun, and there's going to be a lot of people rooting for teams that they don't normally root for. But I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully, I mean, at the very least, if you're the Pelicans, you go into this game tonight saying that regardless of what the Suns do, if you win tonight, at the very worst, you go into Sunday saying we just need to win or have Phoenix lose, and we're in the playoffs at that 6th seed. So get a win tonight, and no matter what, I mean, the situation going into Sunday is looking pretty good.
Well, I root for you, and I will make a couple of phone calls to the New York State High School Basketball Hall of Fame, see if I can get you in for the best substitute or garbage time player, Hall of Famer of the year. It's a segue on that
it's
because
going to be a tough sell.
I'm telling you, I can't wait for that podcast. We're going to bring in your coach, 7 seconds of hell instead of 7 minutes of hell, from Nolan Richardson.
Yes.
When you came in at the very end of the game, you were following, you wanted to play.
You love that story.
It's a fantastic story. It's not anywhere near what Mr. Charles Smith did, though. He is going into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. He is a high school basketball coach here in the state of Louisiana. You probably already know who he is. Point is, he is being absolutely properly recognized as he is going to be an inductee and a member of the 2024 class. Our conversation with him next. All right, welcome to a very special guest. Literally, I guess we can refer to him as a Hall of Famer, Coach Charles Smith. Oh, my goodness. Peabody High School up in North Louisiana. You are going into the Basketball Hall of Fame. First and foremost, Coach, thank you for your time. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for all that you've done. 9 state titles, a bunch of wins, way more than Jim and I have ever coached in our lifetimes here as well. 1,208 wins, 85% winning percentage. All of that is fine and dandy. But, sir, what was it like to actually get that call that you're going to the Basketball Hall of Fame?
I tell you what, it was a big surprise, when I saw that my name was on the finalist list. That was a great honor for me there. But I never thought that I would actually be inducted because of being a high school coach. When you're talking about the Naismith Hall of Fame, you're talking about the high echelon of basketball, your NBA and your college and, your college and NBA coaches.
You mentioned how it was an honor, of course, to even be mentioned as a finalist. And then obviously
Correct.
You were informed that you actually had been inducted and that you were selected and voted in. What was your kind of initial reaction to that phone call, and what was it like for you maybe in the hours and in the immediate days after that of finding out that?
Well, the odd thing, the call came on April 1st. And, of course, we...
Oh, no. They should know better. They should know better than to call you on April Fool's Day.
Right. So I had to get some type of confirmation because I'm hoping it wasn't a local call, a prank call. So I had to take a minute for it to sink in, and then he assured me that he was the executive and that I was officially voted in by the committee.
Coach, it's incredible too when you look at obviously in a building like that, in a place like that, with all the different names that you mentioned, all the different areas where they normally come. And Simone Augustus is joining you here as well. And it's crazy in this
Correct.
state of Louisiana, the amount of talent that the state normally has. It's normally recognized when it comes to football, but when it comes to basketball, and in particular, the other people that have gone in as well. It's quite a list when you take a look at the names that have gone in to represent the state of Louisiana, and now you're going to be joining that list.
That's correct. And I've been reading and I looked at the list, and a lot of people fail to mention Bill Russell. Bill Russell was born in Monroe, Louisiana, and he eventually moved to Oakland, California.
Gotcha.
But he was actually born in Monroe.
Yeah, no doubt.
But
Leon,
you're right.
I was going to say Leon Barmore, Joe Dumars, Elvin Hayes, Carl Malone, Kim Mulkey, Robert Parrish, Bob Pettit, Willis Reed, the Louisiana natives. And to your point, Bill Russell being there as well. But those are some tremendous names to go in there as well. And now Charles Smith.
Yeah, as I said before, it's really unbelievable with the caliber of those people that's currently in the Hall of Fame. And I had a privilege of coaching against a couple of those guys, Joe Dumars, who grew up and played basketball about 50 miles from Alexandria up in Natchitoches. And also he played at McNeese State University, and the same thing with Carl Malone. Carl Malone, I had a chance to see him play in high school, and he was from Summerfield. And, of course, I watched Robert Parrish play when he was in high school. So it's a great honor to be just mentioned, with those names.
Charles, I was reading one of the articles from up in northern Louisiana right after you were, voted in to the Hall of Fame. And you mentioned in there that you were kind of in the process of deciding who's going to induct you. So I guess the way it works is that you have to have someone who's already in the Hall of Fame that speaks at the ceremony and kind of officially gets you into the Hall of Fame up there. Where are you in that process? Is it something that you're still kind of thinking about and you're still trying to figure out? There's a bunch of Louisiana great basketball names that you listed. So where does that stand?
I hadn't really decided, but the first thought came to my mind was Joe Dumars. As I said before, I had a chance to coach against him and watch him play high school basketball, and also I followed him through his career at McNeese. So, he would be, my first choice. And then, of course, Carl Malone and Robert Parrish.
Coach, I want to ask you just, I guess, from the get-go. I mean, this is obviously, I wouldn't say the culmination of your career. You're still out there doing what you're doing and still teaching. But how did you get started into this? How did you get into coaching?
Well, I played ball. I was into sports in high school. I played basketball and baseball. Baseball was my major sport. Did not play football because we did not offer football at my little rural school. But I always been a sport enthusiast. In my little hometown, back in the day, we had what we call a Negro League baseball team. And every Sunday, my family and I would journey out to the ballpark and watch those games. So those guys became my heroes. And then when I began to follow, the Indianapolis Clowns and those major members of the Negro League, I just became really enthused with those men. But going on, I played college baseball for 4 years. And then from that, I was invited to a tryout camp by the Cincinnati Reds. And I didn't make it, so I came back home and I began teaching. And then from the teaching, I was assistant coach. And then from the assistant coach, I moved into the head coach ranks.
How do you describe kind of what your coaching philosophy is or your approach, and how much of that do you think is based on the fact that you were an athlete and you were obviously a really good baseball player to the point that you had major league teams looking at you and trying you out?
Right. Well, the main thing, my philosophy is that you put the kids first. And I've always done that. I've done that in the classroom. And over my 53-year teaching and coaching career, I've been absent from school very few days. I could count the days on one hand that I've missed or been absent from school. And I've done that because I want to be dedicated to my students. I want the students to know that, I'm going to be here every day for you, and I'm going to do the very best job possible in the classroom and also on the basketball court.
How much do you follow, the NBA and the Pelicans and, D1 college? I mean, obviously, your track record as a high school coach speaks for itself with the incredible number of wins that you've compiled over the years. But how much of the other levels do you follow closely?
I followed the NBA really throughout my coaching career. I've brought my team down to New Orleans a couple of times in order to sit and watch, the NBA teams play. I came down one time, brought my team down one time. One of my former players played against the Pelicans, Markel Brown. He was with the Brooklyn Nets at the time. Yeah. And I brought the team down to watch him play. Just to, we're from a area that's really not known for basketball. We have Louisiana College, we have LSUA and Northwestern. So we are not a basketball mecca in this area. So I would bring them down to New Orleans and watch the Pelicans play, and then also I would bring them to Baton Rouge to watch LSU play. Coach, so I'm very interested in professional and college basketball.
I was going to say, Coach, when you're in this for 50-plus years, you got to have not only a love for the game, but also the kids at that level there as well. What is it that you love about high school basketball the most?
Okay, I didn't quite hear you on that.
I was saying, what is it that you love about high school basketball the most? Obviously, 50-plus years in that type of basketball. What is it that you love the most is about being around those kids?
Yeah, okay, the main thing is, seeing these young people come in as freshmen. I bring them in. They come in as freshmen, ninth grade. And I start them off on my freshman team, my ninth grade team, and then we work them up through the junior varsity and then the varsity. So the thing that the thrill that I get out of this, seeing these kids progress. They come out of middle school, they have some skills, but I have a chance to work with them and develop those skills. And it has worked out really good because I've been able to put kids at all divisions of college basketball. From high D1, UConn. I had a boy to play at UConn with Ray Allen. I've had one to play at Alabama, one to play at USC, and also, Paul Thompson played at Tulane down in New Orleans, and Rasheed Smith played at Rice University. So through the hard work and dedication and getting the kids to buy into my philosophy, I've been able to place these kids at different levels in college basketball, which has propelled them on to receive college degrees.
Coach, we asked you, what your reaction was to being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Can you tell us, what has been the response from, the community up there and the people that you know? What's it been like in the, 2 weeks or so since April Fool's Day when you got that phone call?
Well, it's been really, excitement. As I said before, Central Louisiana is, is not known for basketball, so not many people know the power or the strength of the Naismith Hall of Fame. In football, you've got the Football Hall of Fame, you've got Baseball Hall of Fame, but all the basketball comes under one umbrella. NBA, college, high school, AAU, foreign, it all comes under the umbrella of the Naismith Award. So to me, that's the epitome of or the pinnacle of basketball for all levels.
Coach, my final question for you is, what is it you'd like to say to people that are listening to this that, from high school level, anywhere in Louisiana, anywhere in the country, you follow your dreams, you do your things, you can, right, be recognized, something like that. I don't know. What is it, a message you like to not only give kids, but just, guys like Jim over here that needs motivation to keep coming to work every single day, Coach?
One thing, and of course we live in a microwave generation now. That means that everything is done quick. But the success that I have had it's been over a long period of time. So I would, say to the coaches, the players, it's a process. It's a process that you have to go through. Even Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, all the great ones in the game, that was a process they had to go through. They had to put the time, the hours in, the work in. And the same thing goes with me as a coach. I had to sacrifice, and good thing I had a good wife, and I continue to have a good wife who, put up with the hours that I have to put in away from home, into developing one of the outstanding programs in the state of Louisiana and now in the nation.
Well, you heard it there. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, head coach Charles Smith. Same building, sir.
Amazing.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And then also that you're representing the state of Louisiana. Enjoy your time. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. You're busy. It's a Friday. You got school to get into and you got coaching going on. So I do appreciate that. But we wanted to not only recognize, but let people know what an amazing accomplishment that is, and that you're going to get to represent the Boot State on August 16th and 17th up there in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, the induction in the class of 2024.
And oddly enough, I'm getting a chance to represent the Pelicans state of Louisiana.
Perfect.
Oddly enough, the Pelicans, basketball. I am a great fan of Zion.
We will pass that on to him. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Coach. Enjoy your moment, sir, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks to Coach Charles Smith there, Jim Eichenhofer. That's incredible when you think about it. 50-plus years. I'm not even 50 years old. Close. 47, 48. I'm 47, I think. Yeah, I'll be 48 in January. I do. When you get this old, you honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. 1976 minus 24. Yeah, I think I'm somewhere around there. Point is, Coach has done it right. That's incredible when you think about it. Wait, first of all, who calls them on April 1st on April Fool's Day?
Yeah, there's got to be some change to that policy. I don't totally understand that, especially when you're calling somebody who initially, you probably are already aware of the fact that he was surprised that he was mentioned on the name of finalists.
Yeah.
It was interesting that he talked about how, you think of it as something that's reserved for NBA coaches and maybe D1 coaches and stuff like that. There are only a few other high school basketball coaches in America that are in the Hall of Fame with him. So, man, it's an exclusive list. But like you said, let's at least wait till April 2nd to make that phone call.
2021, he was the McDonald's All-American High School basketball coach. He's one of the coaches for that big event, that big game. Obviously, puts together some of the top names that eventually do all likely wind up in the NBA. He also, in 2010, went 41-0. And to the point that you brought up, and he brought up some names and some kids that went on to some schools, but this isn't like IMG Academy or something that has nothing but first-round draft picks in there in Alexandria. And you heard him kind of really say that. This is somebody that loves basketball, loves kids. It really goes to show you kind of coach he is, man.
Yeah, I respect that even more if you think about the climate and the environment of high school basketball now, where you do have all of these places where many of the best players across the country cluster in a certain school. And it's kind of like a basketball factory type situation. It's not really, I don't want to shortchange any of the coaches that are at schools like that, but it's like when you see the list of players that have played at some of these places, you're like, I think I could coach them to a few wins.
Yeah, give me the Pels roster, and I'd be like, let's go now. Come on, get a rebound. Come on, shoot the ball. That's
get back on defense, box out.
Get back.
That's all the coaching you need.
That's
right
it.
there.
That's all I need. Here we go. Wait, I got one too. Ready? Give it to Zion. That's pretty much all I'm good. I'm right there. I can fold my arms.
You can get a lot of wins that way, Gus.
I'll toss a chair.
But yeah, you put somebody in a position where you're just subject to whoever the talent that's in your town, the guys that are around in your area. That's such a different story. So for him to be able to put together all of those years, you mentioned undefeated season, the fact that he has so many wins over the years. That's a credit to him. I'm sure that's a big reason why he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. It's amazing if you look at his resume and like you said, he's not in an area where it's known for producing NBA players, and they're not recruiting guys from other places across the country to come there and play. So that's That's cool. It's cool to see somebody get rewarded for doing it that way.
When you think of so many players that have come from Louisiana, have gone in there too as well, but Louisiana natives, that's a heck of a list. So looking forward to that. August 16th to 17th is when they all get inducted. But that is awesome. And as he said, we may see him Sunday over at the Smoothie King Center with the Blender, which will be really, really good.
That would be cool to get a chance to meet him in person and hopefully have a very fun Sunday in the Smoothie King Center.
Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of, it is Friday, which means it is time for trending numbers. And do we do a weekend show? It's the entire weekend.
What?
The entire weekend is a showdown.
Yeah, the trending number, I mean, we discussed this. We kind of danced around this in some forms, but the trending number I'm going to go with is 2. And I think it makes a lot of sense that we go with the trending number is the magic number. The Pelicans' magic number is 2. They just need a combination of their wins and Suns' losses that adds up to 2, and they'll be in the playoffs. So hopefully we'll get to see that happen. I mean, I guess one of the questions I would ask, too, on this front is, what is the likelihood that the Suns win both of their games this weekend? They're at Sacramento tonight. They're at Minnesota on Sunday. I mean, one way to look at it is, I mean, if they only win, if they say Phoenix splits their 2 games, that means you just have to win 1 game. So, I'll be interested to see how that unfolds.
Well, Minnesota is 1 game behind Denver. OKC is 1 game behind Denver. And they all obviously want that. I don't think anyone wants to go to Denver throughout the Western Conference postseason, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're 33-8 at home for a reason, altitude and all that. But OKC second with the most home wins at 31. Minnesota 29. But those 3 teams have the most wins at home other than in 4th. The Los Angeles Lakers are 28. So
within the West.
Yeah, within the West. Mm-hmm. So I there's something to play for, in other words, for all 3 of those teams there as well.
And I think most likely the Timberwolves are going to go into Sunday. They play, I forget who they play tonight, but they're going to go into Sunday with the
Hawks.
Okay.
They host the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Hawks pull
Nuggets
off a road upset, then worst case, Minnesota. If Minnesota wins tonight, they're going to go into Sunday still with a chance to get the 1 seed if Denver can get upset in their game on Sunday. So
the Thunder host the Bucks.
Right.
So all 3 teams are playing.
And even if the Timberwolves don't think they have a shot or a good chance Sunday at the 1 seed, they're still going to try to fend off OKC. So, by the way, too, I love the fact, and this has been a development of the last, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years, that the NBA decided we're going to put all of the Eastern Conference games at noon on the last Sunday of the season. We're going to put all the Western Conference games at 2:30. And I think that was a really nice change to the schedule because it avoids the situation that I want to say 2021 was the low point of the last day of the season. There's games at all these different times, partly because of national TV. They're trying to fill different time slots. But the problem was you had some night games that were just a travesty because by 6 o'clock at night,
you already
a team knew that they were locked in, so they would sit all their guys, and it made Game 82 way worse. But I think if you look at the combination of the way the standings look right now and the fact that they've made all these games at the same time
makes sense.
Is a big improvement, and that was a smart decision. Speaking of which, the weekend showdown that I'm going with, to me, is going to be Sunday, 2:30, the Suns versus the Timberwolves. I think, as we kind of mentioned, there's no way that game doesn't have some kind of meaning. I think the Suns, I mean, hopefully from the Pelicans standpoint, by that point, the Suns will definitely be locked in as a play-in team. But either way, I think it's possible that some of the teams behind Phoenix could catch them. So there's going to be motivation and incentive either way. I mean, and as we know, we also could go into Sunday with our eye on the scoreboard saying that, the Pelicans either need the Suns to lose or that a loss by the Suns would also clinch a playoff berth for New Orleans, along with maybe a win by New Orleans against the Lakers.
I say this often, but it's really true. Saw you last night. Hope to see you tonight again. Here's one. I will see you on Sunday. I'm telling you, I see you more than my entire family, which is not a bad thing. I like you, Jim.
I like you too, Gus. This has been a lot of fun. I tell you what. Dude,
been a heck of a
what
season.
A great season for you to come in on the podcast for, too. I mean, this has been, the Pelicans, another thing, too, at stake this weekend that we haven't even gotten into, they still have a chance for their first 50-win season since 2008. They have a chance to tie. Even if they win one of these 2 games, it'll be the best record that they've had in the last 15 years. So they've already have the best record with 48 wins since 2018 when they finished 48-34. So this has been a really good season, and we're hoping it gets even better on the weekend.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because when we do come back, the regular season will be in the books. So on Monday, we'll talk about the playoff standings, the playoff seedings. Are the Pelicans in the play-in? Are the Pelicans in the first round of the playoffs, which would be a big thing? And also the return of Brandon Ingram. We hadn't even touched on that. Yesterday did come out that the plan is to have BI play some against the Lakers on Sunday. That's so big on so many different levels. You got to get that wind back up. It's good that he's healthy enough to play basketball again. More importantly, though, this team's playing really well right now offensively. You want to get him into the mix. You want to get him going. But if you can get that 6th seed, that gives him a whole week, not just to be ready, Jim, to practice with this team. And you can imagine they're going to get a couple of days of work in to get the wind in and to get that symbion's kind of going back with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for him to play. I think I heard someone say that, for example, Charles Barkley mentioned last night on the TNT telecast, like, why not just sit him? Like, why not give him some more extra time to rest? But the problem with that is that you could be playing, I mean, hopefully this isn't the case, but you could be playing Sunday and then have to play Tuesday in a play-in game. So, and I also don't think that you want his first game to be a postseason game where there's that kind of pressure. And
you can manage it. I mean, just you bring him in late first, second. You don't have to start him if he feels good. You could. I mean, you can still just you want to get him some work. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's key.
I'm looking forward to it though. I mean, this is kind of like a really interesting novel that you've been reading, and you can't wait to get to the end. And in terms of the regular season, I'm really looking forward to knowing at around 5:00 on Sunday what their schedule is going to be for next week. Are we going to have a whole 5 days and 3 podcast episodes to break down the playoffs, or are we going to go right into, okay, there's a game tomorrow? Hopefully it's the first of those 2 scenarios.
What's crazy too is a lot of times they use a meme or a gif of Thanos, for Zion.
Yeah.
That movie, what was it, Endgame or whatever it was? There's like 15 of them. But that movie where it's just, I mean, you got every superhero in the world. It's chaos. You got planets being destroyed, like that final battle sequence. Jim, that's the Western Conference playoff. We hadn't even got to, and I can't wait till Monday to look at these matchups. 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, which is where likely, hopefully, the Pels will be. It might be OKC, Minnesota. I think Denver might get that one right now. But, I mean, those matchups are going to be incredible when you look at it, because those 2 teams have stayed along the top most of the season. So the Pels, it's not like you're playing one or the other. You're playing 3 teams that were good enough to be the number 1 seed in the West if you're the Pels. 4-5 matchup. I already seen so many graphics on Luka versus James Harden, those 2 and the points going there. The Western Conference playoff is going to be incredible every single round.
Yeah, it really
I really
is.
honestly believe it. There's no sweeps. I don't see a sweep. You see a sweep anywhere?
No,
I don't see a sweep
definitely
anywhere.
not. No, I mean, to your point about the kind of a superhero theme, I mean,
incredible.
You have the MVP superheroes over here with Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and even in Luka, and Anthony Edwards is kind of like somebody that might be on the ballot in terms of the top 5. You've got a bunch of other. I mean, Zion is. If you're talking about superheroes, like I feel like Zion isn't even in the conversation in terms of national, in terms of the guys that people always talk about in the West. But there's going to be so many people that can't wait to watch him play.
Look at the play-in games.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you may if things go well for the Pels and it goes 6. Kevin Durant, Booker, Beal in the play-in game. LeBron, AD in a play-in game. Steph Curry and Clay and Draymond in a play-in game. And then you got the Kings. I mean, you forget, but Coach Brown was the coach of the year last year. The Kings made a nice run and were one of those teams that made some noise last year. So, I mean, that play-in situation's just insane.
It really is. I mean, obviously the main course is the playoffs, but man, the entree of the appetizer of what we could see in the play-in is going to be unbelievable. And I mean, I think those games are going to get incredible ratings. Right now, it would be Golden State hosting the Lakers, and then in the other game, it would be Phoenix hosting Sacramento. So, yeah, I mean, so many stakes. And then even after that first tier of the play-in, you're going to have an elimination game between some combination of that group, and that's going to be epic and apocalyptic. I mean, it could be like, say it's Phoenix versus Golden State, and one of those teams is getting bumped out, or Phoenix versus the Lakers. I mean, it's going to be so much fun. I like what CJ McCollum said the other day too, where he said he wants to be able to kick back on his couch, have some wine. I'm not a wine guy,
wine
but
and popcorn.
be able to just kick back and relax.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun to be able to have a bunch of days to get ready for the playoffs and just enjoy and watch and root for teams to knock each other out.
Obviously, before I started working with you guys, honestly, it's my favorite week. I know March Madness is fun. March Madness, you have 2 days, Thursday, Friday, and I know you have the first four and all that, but you sit all day and watch the games. That first round of NBA playoffs is fantastic.
It really
because
is,
you have 4 games a day, essentially, and then when you get to weeknights, it's 2 games, 3 games going on. It's every single night for about 2 weeks. If they go 6, 7 games, it is fantastic. My wife hates it. There is no TV. Look, honey, you got an iPad. You have your phone. There's all kinds of streaming services. You're good. You get on one side. I got the TV for these 2 weeks. But because it's fantastic, and there's nothing like playoff basketball. And that's what we've tried to maybe portray this on this podcast here, is that we try to, hey, what kind of team are the Pelicans? Are we going to see any signs of growth? Are they going to be contenders? And I think from October to now, we have seen this team take a step in the right direction. We've also, I think, appropriately said how hard the West is. I understand there's a portion of the fan base. I get it on my talk show. Oh, it's a disaster they're playing. I'm like, guys, any other year? Yes, I'm with you. You're trying to hold LeBron and Steph Curry below you.
Right.
They're in the play-in.
And Kevin Durant. Yep.
Yeah, they're in the play-in right now. So it's just, that's how good the West is right now. And I think all you've ever wanted from a fan base or even people that cover his team, can you just compete? Can you be a part of that conversation and do that? And the Pelicans absolutely are. And I think that's exciting from a fan base, because I can tune them in, I can show up to the game, I can watch, and you're legitimately watching top-tier NBA basketball. Would you agree with me?
100%. And I mean, if you think about it, too, you take a step back. They're 48-32 in the Western Conference right now. That's a really good record. And what's also makes that a really good record is the fact that they started out the season 4-6, 4-7. They were only 12-11 after the in-season tournament concluded. So I mean, if you factor all that stuff together, this has been a great run over the last couple months. I mean, partly to your point about how difficult the West is, there's been some peaks and valleys. There's been some tough times. I mean, just last week when they lost to the Spurs, that was definitely a low point, relatively speaking. But overall, I mean, I'm very pleased with how this season has gone. You mentioned this last night too on the radio broadcast after the game, that normally when a team's 3-0 on a road trip like this, you're good. You're like kicking back. You're like, man, this has been awesome. But they have to keep winning.
They have to win tonight.
And that speaks a ton to how tough the West is. That you've won a bunch of games. You're almost at 50 wins, and you still aren't locked in. It might take 50 wins to get into the top 6 this year.
It's crazy.
Whereas I think last year the third seed in the West was Sacramento with only 48 wins. I mean, once again, the West is back to being just so rugged, and it's filled with stars and superheroes. And so if the Pelicans this weekend can get into the top 6, I think that's a big step, and that's a really good accomplishment. And hopefully we'll see even more promising things when the playoffs begin.
And also on Monday's podcast, hero-villain analogy. Are you a hero or a villain? And what? I'm going to just tell you right now, I like Darth Vader, so I'm the villain. So we got to pick the villain. You can pick a hero. You come across as the hero guy.
Well, thanks,
Oh, you
Gus.
could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could be one of those sinister.
I have a dark side,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
You saying dark side is not something I ever thought I'd hear you say. That's Jim Eichenhofer. Jim_Eichenhofer is the way to give a follow. And, of course, NewOrleansPelicans.com. Oh, my goodness. Got a game tonight. Pels and the Warriors. And on Sunday, Pels wrap up the regular season with the Lakers. We will see you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the hoops. Let's go, Pels.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.